Hello and welcome. My name is Meeplus, they, she, he, and this is Literally Graphic. And today we are looking at the translated work of the month. Namely, we are revisiting The Rabbi's Cat, Volumes 1 and 2 by Joann Sfar, translated by Alexa Siegel and Anjali Singh. Volume 2 was colored by Bridget Findickley. The English editions of these volumes were published by Pantheon Books in 2005 and 2008. Content notes for sex, nudity, colonization, racism, and murder. Joann Sfar is a French cartoonist I have profiled previously, although the only other book review I currently have live is The Little Vampire. Although that would give you a better idea of the span of Sfar's work, as that is a children's story about a little vampire who wants to partake in normal human life, and The Rabbi's Cat is definitely more of a talking heads philosophical exploration with some adventure text. Looking over reviews of these books, it seems like this is one of the earlier books of Sfar's to be translated. Important background for this particular work: Sfar is Jewish, with one of his parents being Sephardic from Algeria and the other being Ashkenazi. Fun fact, among a few other movies, apparently Sfar was producer on the animated adaptation of Aya of Yap City. Not terribly surprised, looking over everything he's done. Sfar seems like one of those people who has insinuated themselves into almost every aspect of French comics? ? Which is also why I wasn't surprised to see that Bridget Findickley did the colors in Volume 2. She is obviously a colorist, and also is the partner of frequent Sfar collaborator Louis Trondheim. Her growing up between Iraq and France is documented in the memoir comic Poppies of Iraq, which I reviewed earlier this year. Link in the cards. What kinds of keywords came to mind reading this book? Historical fiction, religion, cats, journey, family, marriage, parenthood, and gentrification. The Goodreads summary of Volume 1 goes, quote, "The Rabbi's Cat tells the wholly unique story of a rabbi, his daughter, and their talking cat, a philosopher brimming with scathing humor and surprising tenderness. In Algeria in the 1930s, a cat belonging to a widowed rabbi and his beautiful daughter Zlabya eats the family parrot and gains the ability to speak. To his master's consternation, the cat immediately begins to tell lies, the first being that he didn't eat the parrot. The rabbi vows to educate him in the ways of the Torah, while the cat insists on studying the kabbalah and having a Bar Mitzvah. They consult the rabbi's rabbi, who maintains that a cat can't be Jewish. But the cat, as always, knows better. Zlabya falls in love with a dashing young rabbi from Paris, and soon master and cat, having overcome their shared self-pity and jealousy, are accompanying the newlyweds to France to meet Zlabya's cosmopolitan in-laws. Full of drama and adventure, their trip invites countless opportunities for the rabbi and his cat to grapple with all the important and trivial details of life. Rich with the colors, textures, and flavors of Algeria's Jewish community, The Rabbi's Cat brings a lost world vibrantly to life. A time and place where Jews and Arabs coexisted, and peoples it with endearing and thoroughly human characters, and one truly unforgettable cat. With Volume 2 being summarized as, quote, "While the rabbi is away, his cat tags along with Malka of the Lions, the rabbi's enigmatic cousin, who roams the desert with his ferocious on-demand lion. Some believe Malka to be a pious Jew, others think he's a shrewd womanizer, but the cat will be the one to discover the surprising truth. Back in Algiers, the rabbi's daughter Zlabya and her new husband fill the house with their fighting, while the city around them fills with a rising tide of anti-Semitism. On a whim, the rabbi's cat, the rabbi, a sheik, also cousin of the rabbi, and a very misplaced Russian painter set out on a fantastic journey, even encountering a young reporter named Tintin in the Congo, in search of an African Jerusalem. Turns out to be very fortuitous that the rabbi's cat is not just a talking cat, but a multilingual talking cat. Moving along to the writing and art for this duology, I love Sfar's art style, so I thought that was pretty neat. That said, it is a very different kind of style, so I do expect it not to be everyone's cup of tea. The issue that I ran into again, which is my own fault, is I'm still not great at reading cursive, so that did turn this into a bit of a struggle. The page layouts are pretty one note. I seem to recall that is a pretty consistent style choice on Sfar's part. The only real criticism I have on this front is, personally, it felt like we started out real strong with the original premise, and then some of the following adventures felt a tad bit random as things moved on. It might have been stronger to just stick with the first issue. On the other hand, it's not like they are capital B bad either. Some interesting points are made. Pausing briefly before we move along to representation, this is a historical fiction written over a decade ago and originally published in France. I say this not to excuse away anything, but to give context. In contrast, obviously, I'm a modern white millennial reader from so-called North America, so this is how things played out, to my mind. As a piece of historical fiction, it seems to depict what most people would expect from depictions of sexuality and gender of the period. The main characters are 99.9% of a boys' club, particularly once we leave the rabbi's daughter behind, although the father-daughter relationship is more than a little patronizing. So perhaps this is more of a relief. Women don't seem to be, most of the time, having a very good time. Everything was heterosexual, with straight relationships popping up every chapter or so. The depiction of ability versus disability was not great. People seemed generally able-bodied. But then we do get a discussion between the cat and a snake about how the snake's bite would be a gift to Malka and the lion, who are getting along in years. The snake ultimately does appear to be waiting for consent to such a gift, but from my experience, it's not great to be reading through a book only to stumble upon a passage that seems to be saying that you, yourself, or someone you love should probably just die. There's also at least one panel where someone is trying out for a so-called, quote, freak show, and their features seem to be exaggerated to make a super monstrous other. Racial and religious differences seem to be the strongest focus of the duology. Religiously, the theme throughout seems to be living cooperatively with each other, which seems good, in my humble opinion. This switches out a couple of times with this pretty strong anti-French occupation of Algeria, at least from the rabbi's perspective. This is as close to an analysis of class that we seem to get. The way that the social construct of race was presented is generally okay, as far as I can tell. Similar to the way religion is used in the duology, Sfar seems interested in people getting along across diversity and difference. It seems likely that some of the ways cultures are used, especially as the characters journey through Volume 2, is exotifying. As far as racial caricature, Sfar seems to avoid the cliches that I am aware of, which is more than some French language comics, but halfway through Volume 2, there's a brief text page directly from Sfar that says, among other things, quote, "For a long time I thought there was no point in doing a graphic novel against racism. That stance seemed so totally redundant that there was no need to flog a dying horse. Times are changing, apparently. Chances are everything's already been said, but since no one is paying attention, you have to start it all over again." End quote. Which comes across, at the very least, as pretty naive for an adult person to think in the 20-aughts. So, to conclude, I do think the religious perspective of these books is pretty unique in my experience, but it's certainly not a must-read. It was interesting to return after having watched the Battle of Algiers and building up my general understanding of this place through time. I don't have a record of my previous star rating, but I think I'm going to go with 3 out of 5 stars for this time through. Bye, y'all. Keep reading in organized and capitalist oppression. And literally graphic is created on land that should be given back to the traditional landholders, which in this case is, to my knowledge, the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, an Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation.